welcome to Norse Code, the #1 podcast for your Minnesota Vikings. I'm your host-producer. My name is James Pagashnik. Thank you guys so much for listening. And at the other end of the car, the passenger seat, the man who is sitting in his best friend's ride trying to holler at you, the scrub himself, Arif Hassan. Arif?
I don't know how much I like that.
Well, it's too late, because I'm going to be editing this in the car, and that's just changing that is just not going to be in the cards. I'm sorry. So, we watched the Vikings-Ravens game. Shilling aside, we're just going to go into it because we may not have a super long period of time. Thank you to everyone involved in Patreon, especially thank you to the Patreon people for helping us go to the game and thus be able to record this episode for what is, once again, a Arif and James car episode. These can be entertaining.
Yeah,
so,
I think the last time we stumbled into an allergen medical controversy involving Aaron Rodgers.
All things are possible when James is driving, apparently. So, let's get into the game that we just watched. The Vikings lost to the Ravens. It was a game where the Vikings had confounded Lamar Jackson and the offense of the Ravens for quite some time until they weren't able to put their thumb in the dam anymore. But the bigger story, I feel, is the play of the offensive line, more specifically, just how many false starts there were on the home team in the quiet.
I don't know if that is actually on the offensive line. My guess is that that's actually on McCarthy because, A, we haven't seen this offensive line perform this many false starts kind of without McCarthy at quarterback. Like, we've seen a couple with Carson Wentz. But also, it wasn't just the offensive line. There was one play, it was called a personal foul by the ref, where it was a false start on both Christian Darrisaw and TJ Hawkinson. I think the play-by-play only has it on Darrisaw, but it was on both. And that, to me, and then there was one also on, Justin Jefferson. That one, to me, suggests that is very strongly an operational error from the quarterback, right? I think there's also a J.J. McCarthy one. I don't think that one is an operational error so much as he didn't know the false start rules. The hard fake with the hands, that's been disallowed for a couple of years now, I think because of Aaron Rodgers. So we had 2 Aaron Rodgers penalties in this game.
The Rodgers legacy stuff really is long-lasting. It's much like herpes, and we're never going to get rid of it.
Yeah, that's what they always say, question mark?
But yeah, the offensive line, even on the final drive of the game, ended up having another false start. And it was just frustrating to watch because you want this team to do well, but when they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, it's frustrating is sometimes it doesn't go far enough, just in terms of what it's infuriating sometimes, right? All they know how to do is to get in their own way. So whether or not that's on the offensive line, and we had Blake Brandel also, by the way, he had a false start, which a false start in the center is usually the center's fault and not anyone else's, but that could be a McCarthy thing, I don't know. But then we also saw some high snaps from him. That wasn't great, obviously.
It's almost like he shouldn't be playing center.
That seems to be kind of the suggestion that some people are making. I think
many people are saying
many people are saying. I would say that from a pass blocking perspective, just after the snap, while we're pass blocking, the offensive line was probably fine. It was everything else and which is not to say that there wasn't a high pressure rate. I think the pressure rate was 38% by the end of the game. But rather that, again, the pressure rate is probably more owned by the quarterback or by the play calling than it is by the individual play of the offensive line. We saw 1 or 2 bad plays from Brian O'Neill, which I'm not too concerned by. We had a couple of bad plays, even from Blake Brandel, that I'm not too concerned about. I would say the pass protection, until I get to actually watch a TV copy, the pass protection from my vantage point was not itself a problem, so much as just the way that the play broke down, whether it was because receivers weren't open, whether it was because McCarthy was holding on the ball too long, whether it was because of the play calling. I think that accounting for what the offensive line was asked to do, they did all right. Not outstandingly. There was still pressure caused by the defensive line pretty quickly into the snap, but reasonably well.
So we can't talk about this game without talking about the turnovers by J.J. McCarthy. So the first drive of the game looked great. Fantastic catches, some good scrambling, but man, as the game went on, it was very clear that McCarthy was not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah, and I'm kind of curious to see what his time to throw play-by-play is, because I wonder if, just like last week, we saw his time to throw really quick in the first drive and a half or so like that, and then over time, the amount of time it took him to get rid of the ball increased to about 3.3 seconds. And it feels like that's what happened here. Relatively quick in the first drive, and then over time, it kind of degraded. And I think that matches the pattern that we saw in the last game, which was that everything from an operational standpoint, a mechanical standpoint, a decision-making standpoint was pretty solid at the beginning of the game. And I don't know if this is a scripted thing. I know a lot of people are talking about it right now. You know, you got a trend of 2 games. You might as well start talking about it. Or if it is just he can maintain the lessons that he's learning from coaching and, you know, early in the game. And as the game continues, fatigue and stress and just all of the things that accumulate during the game force him to revert to his habits, and his habits aren't very good yet, if they'll ever be. And so we're seeing those picks happen. So that first pick, kind of a weird argument on Blue Sky about it. Some people said it was on Jefferson. That doesn't make any sense. The second pick, yeah. The first pick was thrown deep, late, I think, but mostly inaccurate to a deep safety. I don't really know what he was seeing, because it looked like Jefferson was pretty much doubled there. So I don't know what the decision was there. It felt like there was somebody else open. That pick didn't make sense. There was a second pick where Jefferson just fell down and the safety fielded it like a punt. That looks really bad. I assume on the broadcast initially it looked awful. But Jefferson fell down, kind of difficult to make a good determination about where that ball was going to go. I think on both of those Jefferson deep picks, probably throwing it to the outside instead of the inside was probably a little bit better. But either way, I don't know that much about the second one. And then I think the third almost pick, I don't know if there were 3 or 4 picks in this game. The third pick that Roquan Smith had that got turned into an incompletion, that one was real bad.
that was ugly.
Yeah. And, I mean, he had a pick taken away from him in the previous game, too. That one was taken away because of a penalty that, J.T. O'Sullivan made a pretty good point in his video breakdown that, like, McCarthy didn't know that there was going to be a penalty when he threw that ball. And so it was just a bad ball, and he got bailed out by the penalty. Here, I think probably something pretty similar is happening where, obviously he throws a bad ball. I don't really know. Like, I think it was to Addison, just had no leverage on that throw. And so I don't really understand what the decision was there. Obviously, at that point of the game, you're trying to get rid of the ball pretty quickly.
Thank you, car. It was trying to have me not hit the traffic cop.
Well, I mean,
traffic cops are cops,
good.
But yes.
Yeah, right. We don't want you getting in trouble. I mean, hurting people. But yeah, that one, I think, it's not going to count as a pick on the box score. PFF is going to grade him -2 or whatever on the play, and that's fine. I think that was pretty poor ball placement. And then you have the turnover on downs, or the turnovers on downs.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of that a result of inaccuracy. I don't know, really rough.
Ball placement has not been his strong suit. There have been a lot of balls that are either sailing over the head of Justin Jefferson, and this is multiple games we've talked about this now, but between that and the interceptions, boy, that's... Somebody had asked me the other day if I thought that J.J. McCarthy was a less accurate Rex Grossman.
Dad, that goes kind of crazy.
Oof. I don't like that. I can tell you that.
I'm going to have to think about that, and that maybe is the worst answer to that. That is not good.
That's not great. So, I mean... So it was a rough game. The Vikings offense did what it could and failed. It seemed like a lot of instances where they should have been running the ball in short situations, they were heaving it up. And at the end of the day, that does have to go onto your offensive play caller.
Yeah, I'd say maybe. I think the 3rd-and-1 deep shot that turned out to be an interception, I'm not that upset with the decision to throw deep there, so long as the understanding is that they're going to go for it on 4th down. Now, the Vikings, under Kevin O'Connell, especially this year, have not been a very go-for-it on 4th down team, so I can't trust that that was the decision they were going to make. But I think if you do that, I think that it's fine. It's just it's really difficult to trust that that was the process there. To me, that's more the throw than it is the play calling. But there were a couple of moments where it felt like a deep shot was kind of unnecessary throughout the game, and that is just kind of the way that they operate. I could probably pull up the depth of target actually in this game. Let's see what we got. So we got McCarthy under pressure 37% of snaps, blitzed on 30%. ADOT in the game 11.6. That's crazy. He was 2 for 7 on deep shots, which is not good. You don't want that. That's a bad number. But 1 for 1 when throwing to his deep right. So you'd keep that in mind, I guess.
Good Lord. Aaron Jones did his best.
Yeah. He did do that. That was nice. Aaron ran the ball well. Again, I think the offensive line was probably doing a pretty good job, especially on those outside runs. A lot of outside zone in this game. I think more than the past couple of games. I think Brian O'Neill was probably a pretty good run blocker. It looked like you got some good run blocking from the receivers too. But yeah, a lot of, and I think also a lot of it. I don't know why the Ravens seem to play pretty heavy in the box, and in particular roll up a bunch of their safeties. Again, you're against the deepest throwing offense in the league, or thereabouts, right? It's like Daniel Jones, Drake May, J.J. McCarthy. And so I don't know why they played so close to the line, but what ends up happening is that you're that'll allow you to fill gaps, but as soon as one block, and this is what happened, you remember when the Rams went 5 offensive linemen against Adrian Peterson in 2012?
Yep.
And he immediately broke off a 60-yard run. It feels like that, where it's I understand why you're doing this, you're filling up every gap, but now you don't have any second-level defenders. And it felt like Aaron Jones was really close to breaking out a 30, 40, 50-yarder. And instead he just got a bunch of chunks of 10, which was nice. But, yeah, I don't really know what the Ravens were doing defensively there, because this is an offense that does want to throw the ball, and the way that they set up against the run was kind of feast or famine, and they couldn't win their blocks, which is kind of interesting because they've been a worse passing defense this year than a rushing defense by far.
Much. It's frustrating. The theme of the day is that it was frustrating. Let's talk about the Vikings defense for a moment. The Vikings defense was holding the Ravens to a couple of 3-and-outs early, which was great. Keeping them to field goals for a while, which was surprising, quite frankly.
Yeah, 4 in a row, right?
I remember at one point just going, this is an odd defense to be confusing Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But eventually the Ravens were able to push through, despite the best efforts of Van Ginkel, who was in there often breaking up passes or getting tackles. And there was a sack, but I think it was singular, a sack.
Well, yeah, the Dallas Turner sack got taken away.
Yeah, so there was only the... and as far as the penalty is concerned, again, this is the legacy that Aaron Rodgers leaves us. Like a dog who's just incontinent and left something on the floor for you. But, man... We've talked a lot about Dallas Turner, especially over the past 2 weeks, and to see a sack negated because of weight on the quarterback driving?
Yeah, he left his feet, so they called it as driving his weight down. If he had stayed on his feet during the sack, it would have counted as a sack.
Great. So he doesn't get off the schneid either.
Yeah.
Just wonderfully frustrating. So, as far as the defense is concerned, though, they were able to get some pressure, and they were able to keep Lamar from breaking out any 30, 40-yard runs.
Yeah, that was nice. I think, like I think just like globally, they did a pretty good job of maintaining the rush lanes. They did a okay job getting pressure on Lamar Jackson, but more importantly, they were focusing on making sure that they didn't like create those scramble lanes and they just weren't there. I think on designed runs, Lamar actually did worse than on scrambles, and he just didn't do that much on scrambles, which is obviously like great news for the Vikings. I can pull up his yards per carry, but I thought the Vikings did a pretty good job making sure that they balanced the need to get pressure on passing downs versus the need to make sure that you contain this guy. Yeah, he got 4 yards a carry. His longest gain was 8. That was the thing that, like, I think on Viking Squad Show, I was like, this feels like a 50-yard game for him. So I think I took the over on rushing 50 yards for Lamar. Great news. I was wrong. He had 9 attempts in this game. I think half of them are scrambles. A good chunk of them were. He had some read option keepers. He had QB power at one point. That was the one that was near the goal line. I think it was on the touchdown drive near the goal line to convert third down. That was pretty cool. But yeah, for them, aside from like some of those individual plays, they did a pretty good job bottling them up, which is pretty difficult to do while still getting like a decent amount of pressure, not a ton. They still blitzed at a fairly high rate. But yeah, they did it without kind of losing contain, which was not something I expected.
Well, hi there, car that decided to whip a UE in front of me. Cool. That was exciting.
Blitz rate of 75%. Jesus.
That's what they were throwing at him?
Yeah, 75% blitz rate. Only 2 touchdown drives. One of them was a 23. They were up to Minnesota 23 after the Miles Price fumble. 1 of 2. Which we can talk about in a second.
We'll be talking about that in a moment.
But, yeah, one of the touchdown drives they gave up was 23 yards. It's, like, really difficult to put it on them. Mm-hmm. I think if we take a look at... We could probably take a look at Lamar Jackson's EPA per play. But either way, like, regardless of what it ends up being, I think the defense just generally did a pretty good job, so I'm not, like, upset about the way that they handled themselves. It was really the offense that kind of just put them behind the sticks the whole time, or behind the 8 ball the whole time.
Yeah. I'm not sure I want to abandon talking about the defense yet, but I can't help but transition to special teams because...
Yeah, so we had a penalty on a punt return instead of a kick return.
Yeah, we kept looking every time. We were looking for the laundry on the field.
Yeah.
Every kickoff, we were looking for it. And to their credit...
Well, they seem to have changed approaches. They only had, like, 1 returner deep instead of 2. I don't know if that was somehow a way to get Tavierre Thomas to not commit penalties or something. I'm not really sure how that works, but they seemingly changed their approach on kick return. It did not result in a bunch of very good kick returns, but you'll take that instead of the penalties. Mm-hmm. So you end up with like pretty poor field position coming off of kick returns relative to other teams around the league. Okay, so long as you don't make any other mistakes, that's fine. Unfortunately, 2 fumbles, one of them recovered by the Ravens. And, I mean, this was like the thing that worried me in the preseason is that, in training camp, that Miles Price, the way that he handles the ball on kick returns, makes it really prone to things like fumbling. And, like, that was the alarm bell I raised. And the reason I thought he actually wasn't going to make the roster as a returner, obviously he did, but I don't know, if it feels kind of like, yeah, chickens came home to roost. Like, we knew that was going to kind of happen, and it did. Yeah, Lamar Jackson's EPA per play was 0.06, which is, like, below the 50th percentile for quarterbacks.
We were watching the McCarthy one at one point and laughing at just how hilariously efficient he was.
Yeah, he started the game at 1.2 EPA per play in the first quarter, and then it just kept dropping every consecutive quarter. It was brutally bad.
I'm trying not to hit somebody again. This time it's not a cop, but important. There we go. All right. So, Will Reichard kicked well? Like, it's at this point, looking for positives in an offensive performance like this is difficult.
Jalen Nailor?
Yep, what I was going to say is that Jalen Nailor This was the Jalen Naylor game.
Yeah, was it 124 yards or something crazy like that? He was obviously outstanding in the game. I'm not sure how the Ravens kept losing. Obviously Naylor has talent. That's the reason that we've kind of pumped him up as a wide receiver 3 on occasion. It was really kind of the drop problem.
That was my turn. Fantastic.
Oh, well. It was like the drop problem that was more of an issue. Obviously, that didn't show up here. He's a pretty decent route runner. He's got good speed. Nickname is Speedy, right? Yeah. And he was able to get open, which was really nice. Really, and I think some of it was like you just happen to have more accurate throws to Naylor than on the throws to Jefferson, who there is a debate in my mentions right now about whether or not Jefferson had a bad game. It is okay to say he had a bad game.
It's okay to say he was ineffective.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's true. How much of that is his fault is maybe the debate.
I'm just causing problems, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, you've got a skill, right? Might as well deploy it.
Well, look, I'm being effective.
You're being true to yourself. You're impacting the game, which is to say traffic.
Yeah.
Yeah, 124 yards, 5 catches on 6 targets with that touchdown. Jefferson, 12 targets, 4 catches, 37 yards. Addison, 11 targets, 3 catches, 35 yards. Again, not all of that is on Jefferson. I will say Jefferson had a pretty underwhelming game when you only account for the things that he was in control of. But, the overthrow on the corner route in the fourth quarter against cover 2, I have no idea what that was about. He was wide open. No one was near him. The overthrow on the sideline, I think third quarter. Don't know what that was about. There were a lot of bad throws. There was also, he fell down and that caused a pick. I'm not going to blame that one necessarily on McCarthy. There's some people who thought he should have done more on that first pick. I guess I didn't see it, that he should have, but I think it's fair to say he had a mediocre game, and that's fine to kind of point out. Addison had, I guess you'd call it a mediocre game. Naylor had an outstanding game. That's nice.
And Thielen was used often.
Yeah, he had 2 catches in this game, and then he had an illegal blindside block, which I'm going to be honest, everyone in the stadium seems to disagree with me. I think that was correctly called. I think you can't turn back towards your own end line when you're outside of the tackle box and lay contact. Now, obviously, that was meant to be a legal pick on a wheel route to break Aaron Jones free, and it wasn't going to be that because the ball wasn't out in time. So you can put that a little bit on McCarthy. Although I think the Ravens kind of picked up on it well, so it wasn't like it was wide open. One of the last times we were in the car, we were over at JMU, your old stomping grounds, and this time we're in your old stomping grounds of. I don't think we should be here.
We should not.
We should not be here.
Well, we don't have much of a better option because, I guess I have to go backwards if he's going to. Although he's transit police, so.
Yeah, he can do it. We got to go that way.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to hit the wall. This is fun. Doing my best to not break the law and failing. There's an episode title. Sorry, back in my day, you could do this, and apparently you can't anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the giant red do not enter sign should have given you a clue.
Yeah, well, I'm, while I work for the University of Minnesota, and...
Not this one.
No. Yay, East Bank.
There was definitely a right turn lane over there.
Look, I don't care. I'm following them, which is to say this is a terrible idea.
But yeah, not an outstanding day from the receiving corps,
Mm-hmm.
Naylor aside. Not an outstanding day. I would say play calling wasn't great. I don't know. It felt like receivers were open. Not an outstanding day for McCarthy, not just from the turnover perspective, but also after you get out of the first drive, the accuracy was bad. The decision-making didn't seem to be there. He seemed to be late on some of his throws again. Yeah, the offense wasn't good. The defense, I said Jalen Redmond had a really good game, an outstanding game, honestly. I'd have to watch it back to see if he got blown out of his rushing assignments or anything like that. Didn't seem like it. Blake Cashman, also a really good game. Harrison Smith, aside from that pass interference I didn't love, I thought had a pretty good game.
Really, really light pass interference.
Yeah, like I get why you would call that, but I just think in most games you don't. And then later there was a pass interference on Justin Jefferson that they didn't call. That was very annoying. They did later call 2 consecutive pass interferences in the fourth quarter that were also a little ticky-tacky, and so you could say that was kind of a makeup for that obvious missed one on Jefferson. Which, fine. I'm not going to say it all balances out, but, like, fine, whatever. But I think aside from that call on Harrison Smith, pretty good game by him. Didn't see a ton of Theo Jackson out there. There was a lot of Josh Metellus. Was a lot of, you would call it base defense, I suppose, because you only had 4 defense backs out there. And a decent amount of Fabian Moreau instead of Theo Jackson. I'm kind of curious to look at this. Well, I might have the snap counts in front of me, actually. But I would say that he might be getting phased out a little bit, which would suggest, of course, that they made a pretty reasonably big mistake when it came to letting Cam Bynum go. Probably you could have used the money that you used to sign Javon Hargrave to retain Cam Bynum and, been none the wiser, I suppose. But yeah, some individual performances kind of stood out defensively that were fine. I still, what we got? Yeah, Byron Murphy was fine. I didn't see a ton of Eric Wilson out there. I think he took nearly every snap, but he wasn't noticeably bad or good, so that's probably a decent day for him. Andrew Van Ginkel, kind of interesting, right? Because he had a couple of pass deflections. He had the sack. I'd say first glance, probably fine, but I wouldn't be shocked if some of the runs that they gave up to his side were his fault. Grenard, another frustrating game from him, right? He had like 3 pressures, no sacks.
Did he come back from his injury?
I don't think so. He was questionable.
On the field for a bit, and then
and then he was questionable, and I don't remember him coming back. So we'll see kind of what the update is. I'm sure there's a press conference right now that has already told us, but we're in the car. But
we don't have access to the Wi-Fi from the stadium at the moment. As a result of recording and being human.
And Dallas Turner, I think if you ignore the one giant mistake, was probably fine. Was probably better than we're used to seeing, but it's the one mistake is kind of weighing pretty heavily on this evaluation.
That, yes. It's unfortunate. Okay, well, all of this being said, this was...
Theo Jackson inactive? I guess he didn't take a snap.
Oh.
Take a look at the inactives. Yeah, he was inactive. Was he a healthy scratch, or was he on the injury? Jackson's in the concussion protocol.
All right.
Yeah, Oliver's dealing with a foot injury, so that would explain that.
See, eventually I can get back to 94. I just have to try to get us killed twice. Eventually it works out. J.J. McCarthy was not good. And the problem with judging J.J. McCarthy at this point is the lack of games. And because we're so deep into the season, you expect a quarterback who is ostensibly a rookie to be playing better, to make better decisions by week 9. And that absolutely was not happening. And so the mistakes that you'd be seeing in week 3 or 4 are happening later in the season when it matters more. And it can help color our opinions of him, but man, this is going to be a hard game to defend him.
No, for sure, and I think this is kind of just like one of those scenarios where you kind of understand that it is unlikely that the season is going to produce anything overwhelmingly exculpatory for him. Like, he's just not going to have a good game. And you're going to have to be, well, he might have a good game here or there. He's just not going to have a good season. And that was kind of like what the point of my piece was a couple weeks ago about, like, what can you learn at this point in J.J. McCarthy's career, right? With only, at that point, it was only 2 games, and the estimation I made was, even if you acknowledge that he's like a first-round pick and he's not the same as a lot of people who've had really bad starts in their first 2 games, we don't know what his career is going to turn out like. I don't think we have enough information. We still don't. But I just think that we just needed to be comfortable with the fact that he's almost certainly going to be bad. And he is bad. Does that mean he's going to be bad? I don't know. The evidence is not positive, right? Because quarterbacks who turn out to be good are more often good their rookie year than quarterbacks who turn out to be bad. That seems pretty obvious. But, like, something we have to acknowledge that, like, the odds of him turning into a good quarterback are not above 50%. So we're now on a trajectory where we're kind of, like, hoping for things to change or turn. And that's just kind of the reality of it. I don't know if that's an evaluation error. I don't know if that's a problem with the injury. We do have to remember that he's still probably refinding his mechanics. We have to remember he's still a very young quarterback. And we have to acknowledge that we just don't have enough information to say that we can know how he's going to turn out. Right now, seems like probably not good. Certainly I wouldn't expect him to be good on the balance of the season. But long term, we just don't know. It's probably not great, but most quarterbacks aren't great.
I think the thing that bothers me, and then maybe this is the underlying thing for McCarthy, is that Kwesi and O'Connell, everybody else was so damn sure, that yes, McCarthy is our quarterback moving forward. They were so sure. Let everyone else go. Everyone else is having success. Even in Germany, where we should have been this week, they were so sure that this is what's coming. This is what's going to work for us. We're excited. This is what's going to be it. And this is a game. This was a winnable game. This was absolutely a winnable game for Minnesota. And when the Vikings were down 9 points, it felt like it was 90.
Yeah, as soon as the Ravens kicked that field goal to go up, or no, it was the second touchdown, to go up by 2 scores, it just felt, it felt out of reach. And then, at some point you're like, well, I don't know, Kevin O'Connell does this a lot. The Vikings were able to get a stop with time left, 1:44 left. They just needed to get a touchdown and an extra point conversion, right, for 2. And it just felt like, well, I guess that's possible, but it didn't feel like it was likely in the same way that some of those magical seasons from the past couple of seasons were.
Yeah, this was all props to Jalen Naylor for pulling off and suddenly becoming useful. Like the last couple of weeks in particular, his end of the game catch last game, fantastic. He had an amazing couple of catches this game. But man, this was not what we would have hoped for, not what we would have expected.
Yeah.
And the score is not really indicative of just how far off these two teams felt like they were by the end of the game.
Yeah, it's the fact that the Ravens only scored 27 is a credit to how good the defense was on most of those drives. I think really just one drive, which was the second touchdown drive, I want to say, 60-plus yard drive, that it felt like the defense kind of gave out. And then it's like, well, I don't know how much I care at this point. Obviously that drive ended up being important because the Vikings were able to get a response drive, and all of that kind of comes together, right? Because it technically was a one-score game at the end, and so having one of those drives turn out like that mattered. But it also just felt like, yeah, man, they put in a lot. I'm gonna let them have this one. You gave it the one touchdown. Okay, again, 2 touchdowns, but one of them was on a 23-yard field position, right? So, yeah, the defense mostly held up. That's kind of maybe the encouraging thing against a quarterback that's kind of killing it this year so far. We mentioned, in our pre-show or not our pre-show, our preview, that he leads the league in passer rating, which is a flawed stat, but I think kind of tells you at least he's been a very, very effective passer. He's like 4th or 5th in passing EPA per dropback. Really great quarterback, having a really great season. Holding him to that performance, great, good. He had an 87 passer rating in this game, right? Which, whatever. His EPA per play was 0.06, right? Like, that's below average. That's a good performance against that quarterback. They did reasonably well against the run. That's the positive from this game, is that the defense played pretty well. Not outstandingly.
Well, Derrick Henry didn't even have that many yards.
No, he didn't. It was Justice Hill had the touchdown, right? Yeah, Derrick Henry had 3.8 yards a carry. Keaton Mitchell had 7.8, so that's kind of the one thing, is that he broke it out pretty late. With a 22, I mean, that's mostly a 22-yard gain, is where all of that comes from. But yeah, the success rate was pretty low for the Ravens in the run game. I can actually probably look it up right now. The success rate overall, the drive success rate was really low. Running was the success rate was until the end of the game around like 43, which is like a pretty reasonably good place to have the Ravens running offense. So, yeah, didn't love seeing what the Vikings offense put together. The Vikings defense did reasonably well.
Reasonably. Well, I think we're going to wrap up here. We're not going to do a mailbag at the moment. Time constraints, and in fact, I've got 4.5 hours the other direction from where I'm heading at this particular moment. So we'll do a little bit of an episode tomorrow night to go over a few things that we've had a chance to look at the film, and we're going to study the tape. And figure out where we went wrong and where we can do better. Let's plug something. You got anything to plug?
Yeah, we'll see how I do writing up the game after that. But did have James Foster put together a post-trade deadline mock draft. I know people don't love mock drafts during the season and stuff like that. I mean, well, the numbers say you do, but people like to say they don't love them, and I definitely understand that. I do want to encourage people to check that one out, because the data present in the piece is, I think, really outstanding. There's a bunch of film in that piece that details his thoughts about those prospects. So 32 prospects obviously drafted in the first round, 32 really interesting pieces of data viz, whether that is a passing chart or kind of a polar rose chart on the skill sets that some of these players demonstrate. Really outstanding work, I think, from James. So you can check that out. I'm going to have my game review on it soon. Probably Matt Fries is going to write something very depressing that I want you all to read. And
as one does.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get a writer to write what is up with Bo Nix. We'll see if we can get that done.
Before he provides you with more material?
Yeah.
That. Well, that is going to be it for this episode of Norse Code. Thank you guys so much for listening. And please, I don't remember what the sign-off was for last episode, but whatever that was, we believe in that wholeheartedly. And we'll be back tomorrow night. Norse Code is the largest and only division of Norse Code, LLC. You can find Norse Code on the Daily Norseman, SB Nation's Vikings blog, at dailynorseman.com. You can also find it on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever fine podcasts are aggregated. Our Vikings blogger extraordinaire and generally useful human is Arif Hassan of... and he can be found on Twitter at Arif Hassan NFL. I am your producer and host, and my name is James Pagashnik. You can find me at the show's official Twitter feed at NorseCodeDN or at my personal account at Big Mono. If you'd like to donate a few bucks to the show, you can do so in a couple of different ways. You can go to patreon.com/NorseCode and donate there. For $3.50 a month, you get bonus material and more. You can also go to paypal.me/NorseCode for a one-time donation, or you can go to norsecode.threadless.com and pick up some Norse Code merch. Any questions or comments that cannot fit in a tweet can be sent to norsecodepodcast@gmail.com. On behalf of the Norse Code staff, we thank you so much for listening.
Our formula is this.
Hey, all things are possible through the power of Ben DiNucci.